Welcome to part 6 of the series on working with CIPO's trademark XML data. I showed this slide in parts 3, 4, and 5 of this series. The demo I'm about to do involves the pieces within the dashed reverse L-shaped rectangle in the middle. In the green rectangle at the top, we have a multi-dimensional data warehouse which I built using Microsoft SQL Server. I've also built an XML shredder which has extracted the information I'm interested in from CIPO's trademark XML data and loaded it into the data warehouse. In the pink rectangle, we have a so-called report server, which I built off of my multi-dimensional data warehouse using Microsoft SQL Server reporting services. The pink rectangle is also labeled SQL queries to indicate that the report server queries the data warehouse to retrieve information. However, the report server does more than just query. It provides a full-fledged user interface via a web portal that I can access via my browser. That's the blue rectangle. The SQL Server data warehouse is the so-called back end. The browser is referred to as the front end. This is a very common setup. I'm using a large monitor. From time to time I'll zoom to try to give you a better look at what's going on. Zooming in and out can get a bit clunky though, so please bear with me. We're looking at my browser front end here. This is running under Windows 10 on my desktop PC. My report server backend is running under Windows Server on a virtual machine on my local area network. This is the report server's web portal. The two green rectangles are KPIs, that is, key performance indicators that I've built to indicate how current the data stored in the back end is. At the time I'm recording this video, the data is fully up to date and I'm in sync with CIPO. As you can see here, the data warehouse contains details of 1,698,954 marks, and that is current as of the 30th of March 2020, which is CIPO's latest data refresh. The reports that I want to show you are accessed by clicking that CIPO Trademarks Report Server tile on the left. I've hidden some other folders to remove distractions. When I click that tile, I see here several dozen different reports, each represented by a separate tile. The tiles are labeled to indicate the nature of each report. I can get more information about any of these reports by clicking the ellipsis that you see in the top right corner of each tile. Here's an example. To run a report, I just click the Reports tile. So let's start with something simple like this Section 9 Marks report. When I click the tile, I see this Section 9 type drop-down. When I click the drop-down, I see all of the different Section 9 types that are particularized in CIPO's XML data. I'll pick the first item on the list, paragraph 91E, Canadian Government Flags. Having done that, I need to click the View Report button over here on the right. Here's the report, which, as you can see, has multiple pages. I'll advance a few pages. I can sort the report's columns by clicking the double-headed arrows that you see atop some of the columns. So, for example, Here we're sorted alphabetically. Over here, I can sort by filing date, like so. Some of these have no filing dates, and this indicates gaps in CIPO's XML data. You'll notice that there's a serial number column on the right. Each serial number is a hyperlink. When I click one of the hyperlinks, and how about this Kentley Drapeau mark, I'll just click that one. We're taken directly to CIPO's web page, online database web page that is, for that particular mark. If you're a frequent user of CIPO's online database, you'll realize that you cannot selectively search Section 9 types via CIPO's online database because the database does not expose the different Section 9 types for searching purposes. Let's go back and have a look at those again. Here they are. All you can do via CIPO's online database is check the all or nothing prohibited/official marks box in the category column of the additional search options feature on CIPO's online database. However, the Section 9 type details that you see here are in the XML data, so I've been able to pull those details out and put them into my data warehouse. Let's go back to the collection of reports, and how about this legal proceedings summary report? I'll click that one. Takes it a moment to compile the report. I get this summary, I'll just expand it here, which tells me that there are currently 1,097 active opposition cases ongoing and another 910 active Section 45 cases ongoing. This is a so-called Drilldown report. You'll notice those plus symbols on the left. I can click those in order to drill down to different levels. You can see here I'm at the status level. Expand that. I can drill down from status and get to the stage level. Take a few of them, as you can see here. And in each case over on the right, we get a renewed indication of the number of oppositions at each of the indicated stages. I can keep drilling down until I get to the details level, which again, you'll notice includes hyperlinks of the trademarks themselves back to CIPO's online database. So here, for example, we have this Chicago mix mark, and supposedly the most recent action in that opposition, I'll just scroll it up so we can get up to the header, involves a 31 March 2020 event, deadline to file written arguments, opponent. Well, let's click that one and check it out. Here's the CIPO database entry. I'll scroll down. Sure enough, there's 2 oppositions in this particular case. And I believe that the event that we were looking at was that one right there. And you'll notice, as if I scroll up and down, that that's the most recent action in that particular opposition. And you'll also notice that that was the written arguments opponent stage right there. We can look into ongoing legal proceedings in a different way via this legal proceedings by agent report. This is another example of a so-called parameterized report. You'll notice that in order to run this report, I need to choose a province, a city, and an agent. What we're doing here is drilling down to find a particular agent. So let's try for agents in Ontario. I'll choose Ottawa. There might be a few agents in Ottawa. Yes, indeed, here they are. And let's try Rideout and Maybe. They've probably got a few ongoing oppositions and or Section 45. So I'll click to bring up the report. Here it is. You can see they're currently handling a total of 15 cases, 8 oppositions and 7 Section 45s. I'll just drill down. We can see something about the stages that each of those cases are at. We'll expand these Section 45 oral hearing cases. Let's take a look at Hunting World and Design. It says that the most recent event was case forwarded for hearing, and the event date there, the 19th of August, 2019. Well, let's check it out. Here we have the CIPO database record, and you can see that indeed Rideout and Maybe is the agent of record. I will scroll down. Here's a Section 45 action, which is active. See if we can find, yes, there's the event right there we're looking at. Let's now try the top 100 trademarks by mark type. That's kind of a fun report. I'll click it. This report is telling me that these may not be the best choices if I'm trying to think of a new trademark. Initially, this report defaults to showing every word mark, regardless of current status, that has been presented to CIPO since the beginning of time, 1872 in this particular case, as far as CIPO's XML data is concerned. Now, recall that cases that became inactive before 1979 are not included in CIPO's XML data, but this particular report is looking right now at both active and inactive marks. Well, maybe you're not interested in looking at everything according to these defaults. Maybe you would rather only see what's been going on since, say, well, how about 2015? And maybe you don't care about inactive marks, although you should if you're picking a new trademark. So let's configure with those defaults. I'll show you here. We're going to be looking at marks filed between 2015 and 2020. And active marks only. So I will click the View Report, and here's the result. You can see these are the most common marks, and over on the right column, we see the number of occurrences of each of these particular marks. So this is a quick way of getting a handle on marks that you might want to avoid. Reports can include charts. For example, have a look at this 10-year filing trend chart. This is a good example of the old adage about a picture being worth a lot of words. You can see at a glance here the trend in filings in CIPO for the decade 2010 through 2019 inclusive, and the number of applications filed in each of those years. This report here, Inactive Mark Morgue with Coroner's Report, that sounds intriguing. Let's try it. It's another drill down report. I'll expand it first. It shows for each year of filing the number of that year's filings that are inactive. If I drill down, I can see the various inactive categories and the associated numbers. So for example, I'll just open up 2014, expand it again, and you can see there that of the 34.68% of cases filed in 2014, here's the breakdown of the number of those that the individual numbers that have gone abandoned and or have become inactive, I should say, and the reasons why they became inactive. You can see there were 6 expungements, 27 were surrendered, 56 inactivated, so on and so forth. Any Canadian trademark practitioner is going to be interested in this unexamined application backlog report. Let's have a look at that one. Each row in this report corresponds to a year and month for which CIPO has yet to examine one or more cases that were filed in that year and month. Now, I'm happy to tell you that the row at the bottom for July of 2017 is an outlier. That row is supposedly telling us that one case filed in July of 2017 is still awaiting examination, but that's wrong. In fact, there's a problem with CIPO's data for that one application. I've asked CIPO to fix it, but they've got higher priorities right now with the ongoing COVID-19 outbreak, which is certainly understandable. Let's have a look at the adjusted renewal fee report. Just open up the ellipsis so you can have an idea of what that one is about, but I think you'll get it fairly readily when we jump into it. Recall that one of the many changes implemented by the June 2019 amendments to the Canadian Trademarks Act and regulations subjected Canadian trademarks to the NIS classification system, and a consequence of that is that when an existing Canadian trademark registration is renewed, the registration must undergo NIS classification if it hasn't already. And depending on the number of NIS classifications, CIPO may call for payment of a so-called adjusted renewal fee to cover any additional classifications. The catch is that you only have 2 months to pay the fee, failing which the registration is expunged. So this is something that practitioners and trademark owners need to watch carefully, and this report can help out with that sort of thing. So as you can see here, and as we saw before, I need to choose the province, the city, and the agent. So I'm going to choose a firm that I know has a large trademark docket simply because I want to demonstrate some nuances of this report. So let's try Gowling's Ottawa office. So Ontario, scroll down for Ottawa here, and as we saw in a previous demo, I can focus on that's Oshawa, wrong, Ottawa. I can focus on individual offices of firms even if they have multiple offices. There we are. I'll run the report. Here it is. Expand it. Rows for which the fee has already been paid are highlighted green in this report. Rows for which the fee has not yet been paid are highlighted pink. Each trademark, as you can see, appears as a hyperlink, and when I click one of those hyperlinks, I'll be taken right over to CIPO's webpage for that mark. You'll notice also that the agent's file numbers appear in this report. That's another example of something that is included in CIPO's trademark XML data. So let's try this hurricane band mark by way of example. Here it is. You can see that Gowling's Ottawa office is the agent, and there you can see the adjusted renewal fee details right there as we saw on that report. If you watched the demo in part 3 of this series, you'll recall I said that the user did not need to know anything about the underlying database structure. Well, you'll appreciate that the same thing is true with this report server. There are lots of other reports, but I want to keep this short, and in any case, I think you've seen enough to understand that there are many ways in which you can extract useful information and business intelligence from CIPO's richly detailed XML data. In part 7 of this series, I'll briefly outline some possible next steps. Feel free to email me if you have comments or questions.